What is Katsudon? The word katsu means cutlet, and don comes from donburi, which is the word for rice bowl. So Katsudon is just a fried cutlet with some egg and vegetables over some rice. Today I'll be making Katsudon, and I'll show you how simple it is to make. First thing we'll do is we'll prep the vegetables. I'll be prepping quite a bit of vegetables because I'll be making a bunch of meals. So adjust the vegetables to however you want. I have 2 yellow medium onions. Cut the top and bottom off, and then in half. I'll do the same with the second onion. Peel the outer layer, and I'll cut the onion into thin slices, from root to stem, which is the ends that we cut off. One of my favorite YouTubers, Ethan, made a video on why he cuts onions from root to stem. It's a great video, and I highly recommend checking it out. Once all the onions are cut, we'll put them aside for now, and we'll cut up the mushrooms. These are brown cremini mushrooms, or button mushrooms, and I'll thinly slice them. It doesn't have to be perfect, because when we cook it down, they're going to shrink anyways. Once all the mushrooms are cut up, we'll put them on the same plate as the onions, and we'll leave them aside. Now for the katsu, which is our cutlet, I'll be using 4 chicken breasts here. You can also use pork, but I went with chicken because I wanted a leaner option. I'll cut the chicken tender off. The tender is the little flap on the back of the chicken breast, and I'll save that tender for another meal, probably for a fried rice or something like that. And now we need to make this chicken breast into a thinly sliced piece of meat. You can use a meat hammer, or like a large pan, and then pound it down until it's really thin. Or, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to cut the chicken breast down through the middle. I believe this is called butterflying the chicken, but instead of keeping it together as one piece, I'll just cut it all the way through. Here's all the chicken breast halves, and we'll season both sides with salt and pepper, and we'll leave the chicken aside for now. Next, we'll prepare the broth that we'll use later on when we put everything together. The main ingredient in this broth is dashi. You can make dashi from scratch, but what I'm going to do is use this package here called Hondashi. It is this instant dashi, and all we need to do is just add in the package and some water, and we'll have this dashi here. And for each package, I used about a cup of water. Make sure to use hot water so the granules dissolve. We'll add a couple more ingredients to this dashi. Some Mirin, it's a sweet Japanese cooking wine, about a tablespoon worth. Next, some soy sauce. I'll use maybe a tablespoon and a half. Then some sugar. You can use any kind of sugar, but the one I have here is a light brown one from a Korean grocery store. I'm just eyeballing it, but I'm probably using about a tablespoon here. Then mix everything together until the sugar is dissolved, and then we'll set aside this broth for now. Now we'll cook some rice. I'm using a Japanese rice here, and I'll be cooking it in a rice cooker because it's the easiest way. Pour in some rice, and I'm not going to measure it out because I know how much water I'll need. If you want to be exact, follow the directions on your package. And I'll wash the rice multiple times until the water starts running clear. And then we'll start the rice cooker. Now we will bread the katsu. I'll grab 3 plates. 1 for the flour, 1 for the eggs, and 1 for the panko. Crack an egg in one of them, and add about a cup of flour into the other plate. And in the last plate, we'll add in the panko breadcrumbs. Now I'll season the flour with a little bit of salt. Not too much, because we already seasoned the chicken. And we'll also add some freshly ground pepper. Mix the flour up with a fork to get it all combined. And we'll also whisk up our egg as well. We'll grab one of our chicken cutlets, and we'll dip it into the flour, making sure that all sides are coated. I also like to press down on the chicken to make sure that the flour is sticking to it. Once every part of the chicken is covered, shake off the excess flour, and then we'll dip it in the egg mixture. Again, get all sides of the chicken coated, and then we will dip it in our panko. Also press down on the meat to make sure that the panko is sticking to the chicken. Repeat this for the rest of the remaining chicken, but I like to do it as we go when we're frying. And if you've been learning a lot through this video, leave a like and subscribe. It helps me know if you're enjoying the video and to make more videos like this. I appreciate it and thank you. Now let's get some oil preheated on our pan. In whatever pot or pan that you're going to deep fry in, turn the heat on medium, and we're going to do a shallow fry, and we'll only use a little layer of oil. Feel free to deep fry, but I personally hate wasting so much oil. Also, use a neutral oil. I'm using grapeseed, canola, or like a vegetable oil. Any oil with a high smoke point will work fine. You can tell how hot the oil is by throwing a breadcrumb in, and if you see that the breadcrumb is sizzling, the oil is probably hot enough. I'll go in with one cutlet, and you can see around the edges that the cutlet is frying nicely. Since there's room for 2 cutlets, I'll add another one in, and let it fry for a couple minutes. If you think the oil is too hot, turn down the heat, or add in some new oil, and if you think that it's not hot enough, just turn up the heat temporarily. When the one side is golden brown like this, we'll flip it on the other side and give it another minute or 2. The time all depends on how thick of the meat that you're using. For mine, I only need like another couple minutes on the other side. Line a plate with paper towel to drain the excess oil, then transfer the cutlet whenever it's done. I'll finish up frying the rest of the chicken. Here's all the katsu now, and I'll just grab one of them, and I'll cut them into thin strips for the katsudon. And before we start cooking up the katsudon, we'll whisk up an egg so we can pour it in after. We'll need a pan that has a lid. We'll turn the heat on medium heat, add in some oil. When the oil's hot, we'll add in some onions and mushrooms. Add in as much as you want. It's really up to you how much to put in. Mix the vegetables around and give it a couple minutes to cook. When the onions are translucent and the mushrooms have lost some of its liquid, this is when we go in with some of our dashi broth that we made. So pour in some of the stock, just enough to cover all the vegetables, and let the broth come to a boil. When it starts boiling, we can add in our katsu. I'm making 2 portions for my sister and I, so I'll have 2 cutlets. I'll pour in the eggs all around the katsu. You can also pour on top of the cutlet if you want, and then cover it with the lid. Covering it will help cook the eggs, and at this point, I like to get a bowl of rice ready while the eggs are being set. The eggs will only take like a minute or 2, and when it's ready, we can pour everything over the rice. But since I made 2 portions, I'm gonna have to separate them out. I'll make sure to get some of the eggs, vegetables, and sauce. And this is another one that I made later on as well. The balance of the flavors and textures of this dish is so delicious. The dashi stock gives it such a deep umami flavor. It's also a bit sweet with the onions, and the katsu and the eggs make it so savory as well. This entire dish is just full of flavor. I hope you enjoyed the video. Like and subscribe if you haven't already. And I hope you have a great day.